everyone, Frank Song here again from Modern Career Advice. And today we're going to continue with the proper techniques needed to land the jobs that you actually want, okay? So in the previous phase, okay, where we covered phase 1, we learned why avoiding commoditization is so important in succeeding in enterprise sales, okay? And the logic behind the importance of identifying our target market as the first step to avoiding that commoditization and moving towards becoming a differentiated asset, okay? So let's build off of that and jump right into phase 2, which solves this problem, all right? I'm pretty sure that many of you have heard the chicken or egg causality dilemma, right? Remember the old saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, the problem is that I'm pretty sure you've experienced something pretty similar, which I'll call the career causality dilemma, because I know I sure did. What I mean by that is I distinctly remember when I was trying to land a job in an industry that I didn't have any previous experience in, and even when I was trying to transition to a better job in the same industry, I was always perplexed by the requirement sections of the job postings. You know, when it said things like requires X amount of years in a specific field, or you have to have previous experience in this area or that area, or expertise in this skill or that skill, right? And you're like, wait a minute, how do I get that experience or skill that the job requires if this is the job that would give it to me? And if I can't get this job in the first place because I don't have the required amount of experience or skills, then how am I supposed to get it? And around and around and around it goes, okay? So what I'm going to explain to you right now is how you can break that cycle and land jobs even if you don't have what's stated in the requirements section, and the fundamentals to winning offers against stronger and more experienced competitors that you're going to run into when you go for these jobs, okay? And the way it works is like this. The best way to really explain how this is done is by describing how I was able to do it and showing you some learning lessons throughout the way, okay? So back in the day, I remember getting my first investment banking interview, and I distinctly remember what the guy who offered me the interview said. So Frank, we're happy to interview you, but heads up, we've been pretty fortunate to get a lot of high caliber candidates year after year who've really graduated from some of the best schools across the country, and many who've had pretty relevant experience. And also, the person that you're going to be replacing also came from a top tier university. And oh, by the way, to be completely transparent with you, we've never hired anyone with your background profile before, okay? Well, if that was supposed to be a pep talk, it didn't quite work. But whatever. I knew if I was going to go down, I was going to go down swinging anyway. So I went to the interviews, irrespective of those comments. So when I got to the office, effectively what happens in investment banking interviews is that they do something called a super day, where it's a final round where they gather all the candidates that they're considering in a conference room before breaking you off into your rotating interviews, all right? Now, in the conference room, everyone is actually pretty cordial and polite, even though we're all competing for the same role. But in your mind, you know, we're only human, you're sort of sizing everyone up. And I distinctly remember seeing this guy who literally looked like what you can imagine an investment banker to look like. I mean, he looked like a mix between Scott Disick and Donald Trump. He was tall, he was well built, he has his hair combed to the back, he was wearing this expensive, nice fitting designer suit. Like, if you were to go to Google Images and typed in investment banker, like, I am pretty sure his photo would pop up first, all right? Anyways, after watching him leave to go to his interview, I'm pretty sure I know how his interview went. Effectively, the interviewer probably sat him down and said something like, hey, why don't you tell me about yourself? Or why are you a good fit for the firm? And his answer probably went something like this. Sure. My name is John Kingsington III. I graduated with a triple degree in computer science, economics, and advanced mathematics. I am highly proficient in multivariable calculus, and I am currently working with a team of Nobel Prize laureates where I'm coupling my knowledge of computer science, mathematics, and economics to develop a model that will help better predict financial crises. Whoa. And I'm sure the next person came in and the interviewers asked them the same exact question, like, tell me a little bit about yourself, or why are you a good fit for the firm? And this person probably said something like, yeah, happy to do that. To tell you a little bit about myself, I've actually been a pretty successful entrepreneur my whole life. I started my first business when I was 17. I grew it to about $50,000 in revenue and eventually sold it. And most recently, I actually started 2 successful other startups where I helped grow them to about $2 million in revenue before getting venture capital and stepping away from those businesses. And in addition to that, I've actually been asked to speak nationally on the topic of entrepreneurship. And oh, by the way, I've also been awarded the prestigious Young Entrepreneurs Award 2 separate times. What the hell? Where do they make these people, right? Don't they have anything else better to do? Jesus Christ. But this was seriously the accomplishments of a lot of my competitors, all right? Now, here's the thing I know about my competitors. I know for a fact that they probably worked hard and succeeded their whole lives, all right? Like, they've probably played the violin before they could read. They took every single AP class known to man. They studied super hard, got a perfect GPA, then got a perfect SAT score, graduated valedictorian, went to a super crazy top college where they worked really hard again, graduated top grades, and then they worked at some pretty great places and got some great experience under the belt from reputable companies, right? And with a track record like that, I'm pretty sure they practiced and tried very hard for this interview and gave it everything that they had. However, despite all of those life achievements and hard work and decades and decades and decades of success, they made a huge tactical enterprise sales error because of the fact that they didn't understand enterprise sales and the proper techniques, okay? Which is the reason why I got the offer and they didn't, all right? And to explain the enterprise sales error that they made, you actually see this happen a lot. It's the exact same reason why startups fail all the time and why inventors never get rich, okay? I'm sure you guys heard the story millions of times, right? A bunch of friends, they get together, and one of the friends is having a problem with something. And another friend goes, hey, there's got to be a better way. We should build a solution for that, right? Then they start brainstorming on a napkin or a whiteboard, coming up with different ideas of products and solutions to build. And then eventually they go, Eureka, this is the one, right? Then they start making a business plan. They start coming up with a catchy name for their business. They start getting some business cards printed, get a designer to make a cool logo and make a slick looking website. And then they go rent some office space so they can look legit and super credible. Then they build a slick looking product with all the bells and whistles. All the founders and employees are working day and night trying to make it successful. They get some press, the media starts writing about them, and they even did the impossible. They secured an investment from some top tier investors and have some super smart board of directors. And time again, 9 out of 10 of those situations ends up in bankruptcy and failure, okay? Here's the weird part. They had all that stuff going for them, yet they still went bankrupt. What happened? The founders, they were working all night long. These are really smart people. They have a great looking website. They have a slick product. They have a cool office. They have money from investors. How was it that with all that working for them, that they still failed? The problem is that from inception, they made a huge tactical error, okay? That error was that they built a solution for what they thought their buyers wanted to pay for, okay? They spent so much time hypothesizing and brainstorming what their customers wanted, and they ended up building a solution for what they thought their customers were willing to pay to solve, okay? They were too focused on building the product, building the solution, building this, building that, feature this, feature that not one person stopped to think for one moment and ask themselves, are we building a solution to solve a problem that our buyers looking to pay to solve? No, they didn't, okay? And same thing with inventors. They're so focused with their inventions and their ideas that they're not thinking about if there's actually people who are willing to pay to solve this problem. And I hate to break it to you, but reality is the harshest judge of them all, okay? Now, let's integrate this lesson and go back to my investment banking story to tie it all in together, okay? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what an investment banker does, okay, in its simplest form, we do pretty much two things, okay? One is we build financial and valuation models, and two is we make presentations for meetings, all right? So with that being the understanding, what does having an advanced math degree and being able to do multivariable calculus have anything to do with it when the most complicated math that I did was 8th grade math? And what does it matter if you have an advanced computer science degree? The most complicated computer-related thing I ever did was Control-Alt-Delete, all right? And what does it matter if you were an entrepreneur or a public speaker, okay? We're not entrepreneurs. We're brokers, all right? And last time I checked, I don't ever remember hearing in the job description that we get paid by being public speakers, all right? And the problem is this. As you're saying all this to the interviewer, okay, the interviewer is sitting there thinking, wow, that's pretty impressive, but in crap I don't care about, okay? So what ends up happening is they start insulting you in the worst way possible, okay? It's the same way when you go to a restaurant and you don't like the food or you think the service is crap. What do? You insult them the worst way possible. You never go back. And that's exactly what happens when you don't build a solution that the buyer actually wants and is willing to pay for. They never call you back for the next round, and you never get the offer, okay? So the point of phase 2 is that you have to design a superior solution that your buyer is willing to pay for, okay? Now, most people hear that and think, wow, design a superior solution? That sounds really complicated, right? Now, here's the thing. That's actually the easy part, okay? The hard part and the part that matters is deeply understanding your buyer's workflow, okay? If you're able to deeply understand your buyer's workflow and problem, then designing a superior solution is actually super simple. Think about it like a checklist, okay? It's easy to check off the checklist. The hard part is developing that checklist in the first place, okay? So to be direct, the job offer war is won by the person who better understands the buyer's workflow and problem, because that person has the ability to develop a more superior solution than their competitors, all right? So let's tie it all in together now. As we see in business, what separates the startups that go on to become big, successful companies that thrive from the ones that go bankrupt is that the startups that went on to become mega successes, they spent most of their time and energy deeply understanding their buyer's workflow and problem and their pain points, okay? They didn't spend it on designing the solution. They spent the least amount of time actually building it. The most amount of time that they spent was actually understanding the problem, because that's what mattered, all right? However, the startups that went bankrupt time and time again spent all their time hypothesizing and brainstorming and building their products and adding this feature and that feature without ever thinking if their buyer would be willing to pay to solve this problem, all right? Now, the problem is this. I see this exact same error happening in the career space, all right? For example, oftentimes people come to me asking me for my help, okay? And before I give them my help, I need to understand their background. And so I ask them why they take that job, why they do that role, why they get that degree, why they get that certification, why they do this, why they acquire that skill. And time again, the answer always is the same. I thought it'd make me more marketable. I thought it helped me stand out. I thought it helped me transition. I thought it helped me get a better job. Notice something really interesting, which is the word that commonly occurs is the word I thought. This is the same I thought that the startup and inventors that always went bankrupt thought that they were building a solution for what their buyer was willing to pay for, okay? That's the reason why my clients and I spend a tremendous amount of energy understanding our target market's workflow and problem as deeply as possible. We don't spend our time hypothesizing and theorizing and thinking about what would make them more attractive to employers. No, that's what people who fail do. Instead, what we do is that we spend all of our time deeply understanding that target market's workflow and doing adjacent analyses to get to that answer, okay? So that we can develop the exact superior solution that our buyer is willing to pay for. Now, let me tell you why this is super important, okay? One of my managing partners here at Modern Career Advice is a really good friend of mine, Will Chung. And the fun fact of the day is that back in the day, we used to go to interviews all the time just to win offers, just for fun, all right? And so I know he has very good technique as it relates to winning offers, okay? Now, here's the thing. If Will and I were going for the exact same job, and with both of our techniques being equal, what would separate one of us from beating the other person is who got that extra granular nugget of information to deeply understand the buyer's workflow better than the other person, okay? That would give that person the extra edge to developing a more superior solution and thus winning the offer, all right? That's why it's so important to deeply understand the buyer's workflow. Now, remember when I told you in phase 1 that commoditization will destroy your chance of landing offers and that you have to focus on becoming a differentiated asset? Well, in order to do that, you have to deeply understand your target market's workflow and problem in order to develop a highly differentiated and relevant solution that the buyer would be willing to pay for. All right, guys, so that's it for phase 2 now. In the next video, things are going to start getting very interesting because we're going to talk about the exact strategies we use to create resumes that convert into a ton of interviews. So take care for now, and I'll see you guys later.